All of those clips you just saw were shot on a Dji Mavic Air 2. I got it when it was first released, and I lost it about 3 months later in the Spanish mountains, got a Dji Mini 2 as a replacement, realized it wasn't good enough for me, sold it and bought a Dji Mavic Air 2 again, and today I'm going to give you my review and experience using this drone and using a Mini 2 and give you my opinion on why I prefer this one over the Mini 2 and if you should buy it or not. Why am I doing this all the time? Let's start off with what DJI drones are on the market right now. So first of all, we have the newest Mavic 3 lineup, which looks really good, but it's way too expensive for me and I'm not going to buy one. Next up is the DJI Mavic Air 2S, which is supposedly to be a better version of the Air 2, this drone, but they still sell the original Air 2 on their website. They also sell the Mini 2, which I had before, a small form factor drone under 250 grams, which is really fun and easy to fly. They also introduced a new Mini SE, which is supposedly to be a downgrade from the Mini 2. It's cheaper and it's a downgrade in every way possible. Also, why is it called SE? It's like they following the Apple naming scheme for the iPhones. Let's start off with my experience with the DJI Mavic Air 2, which I've had 2 times. One time I lost it and one time I still have it so far. Honestly, my experience haven't been that good at all. But let's start with the good things about this drone. The camera, it's decent. It's not the biggest sensor, but it's good enough. The battery is big and it gives you enough flight time for like 30 minutes or so on, and because it's big and heavy, it's really stable in the wind, which we'll get back to later when we compare to the Mini 2. It also shoots a raw image format, very useful for me, and Cine-like for video, because I prefer to color grade my video and also edit my images in post. Some people don't do that, so they don't need that, but for me it's very important that the drone has raw for images and Cine-like for video. It also has all the fun features like hyperlapse and auto exposure bracketing, boomerang mode, everything that you might need and not need. 3 months after I got my first drone when it was first released, I lost it in the mountains, and the reason for that is because my battery just dropped down from 50 to 0 in an instant. I don't know if it was the battery's fault or the drone fault or maybe my fault because I was flying at such a high altitudes. Anyways, that should not have happened and it made me really frustrated because it wasn't really my fault that I lost this drone, but I have read that many people have experienced similar issues with the Mavic Air 2, where the battery percentage just drops down really quickly, or it doesn't update at all and it just be stuck on 50% like it did with me. Maybe in the background the battery was draining but it didn't show up on screen, and then suddenly it just disconnects and drops down, which is really sad. So from that point I never trusted the battery percentage. I always timed my flying. The DJI website advertises about 30 minutes of flight time, so I usually subtract like 5 or 10 minutes if it's really windy or really cold, because all these factors affect your battery life, and sometimes I only fly for like 15 minutes even though they advertise you can fly for 30 minutes. So after I lost the drone I got a Mini 2, and after I saw the Mini 2 I got a new DJI Mavic Air 2. So it was a used drone. I got it for half the price of a new drone. The person who sold it to me has never even activated the drone, so it hasn't been in the air even one time, but I got it for half the price and that's the reason I bought it. But let's talk about the problems I have with this drone. Because as it turns out, most of the Mavic Air 2s have some kind of problem. So the problem with this drone that I have now is that it is not stable in the air. It is constantly drifting a little bit to the side, and it really annoys me, because if I'm trying to do a straight video, it will slightly move to the side and I need to constantly adjust it with my sticks so it doesn't drift off. And also if I do a hyperlapse, which drone does by itself, it should do it in a straight line, it can't do it. It will just drift off to the side. It's really annoying. I couldn't fix it. I read all the forums and calibrated it so many times, but it is not stable. Even though it's a brand new drone, it has its problems already. And again, this should not have been a problem. The same way that the battery should not just drop dead in an instant. So I'm starting to suspect that the Mavic Air 2 lineup has always some kind of problem, and that's why they released a 2S, which is an upgraded version. It's a little bit more expensive but better in every other way, and they supposedly have fixed all these problems. Now let me tell you about my experience with the Mini 2 drone, which I had in between me losing Air 2 and buying a used new Air 2. It was really fun and really great drone to use. My biggest problem with the drone was its size. It was too small and really unstable in the wind. It would drift, but not because of calibration issues like this drone has, but because of wind. It's constantly windy here in Norway, and you always get this warning about wind speed too high, please land, or something like that. But I really enjoyed the small form factor of Mini 2. It was really fun and really easy to use. I could just put it in my pocket, go out and start flying, which I can't do with this one because it's way too big to fit in my pocket. Probably could, but nah. Also, the sensor size on the Mini 2 is too small for me. I sometimes do photography for other companies and they want the biggest possible image sizes, and you can't get that with a Mini 2, especially if they want to print those images later. The video is fine on the Mini 2, it can go up to 4K, but I would only recommend to shoot in 2.7K to save some battery and extend your flight time. Also, there's no DCine-alike on the Mini 2, so you can't color grade your videos, but at least there's RAW format for images, which is really good. And as I told you, the drone is too small to handle any large amount of wind, and I find it really strange that they advertise on their website as that this drone has level 5 wind resistant. What is even that? What does it mean, level 5 wind resistant? I would give it like a level 0 because it is always wobbling in the wind. It's not stable at all. If it was less windier and more sunnier and less rain, I would totally use the drone more often. But I need something more stable and that can do more high quality images, so that's why I need a bigger drone. So that was my experience with owning the Mavic Air 2 and Mini 2. Good experience with both of them, but as I told you, they both have their own disadvantages. But what drone should you buy? What drone would I recommend you to get? If you're going to buy something at a retail price and you're doing something professionally or want as good quality as possible, even though you're an amateur like me, I would strongly recommend you to get an Air 2S. Don't get Air 2 like I have here, because they have just too many annoying problems. Maybe you will be lucky and you get a drone that doesn't have problems, but at the price difference between Air 2 and Air 2S, you should always go for 2S if you're buying at retail price. Even though it's just a little bit more expensive, like $100 or $200, you get an upgrade in every single way, and you even get a bigger sensor, which means you get more high quality images and a larger size, and those images will be more detailed, and you could also take better night photography, because bigger sensor means it can absorb more light. Or if you can afford it, buy a Mavic 3. I don't know, I have never owned it, but if you can afford it, you should probably get it, because many people say it's good, but I don't know about that, you need to do more research. If you want quality and fun, buy a Mini 2. But remember about the wind problem. If you live in a place where there's not so much wind, then you'll probably be off good. I won't say the drone is bad in wind, just it's not as good as a heavy drone. Mini SE is just a simplified version of the Mini 2, and I would not recommend getting it. It feels like a kid's toy when you read on the website about specifications. It doesn't have any RAW format for images or DCine-alike. It has shorter transmission range than a Mini 2. So yeah, Mini SE is a simplified version of the Mini 2. But if you want to grow and increase your skills and get better, you should get a Mini 2. Mini SE does not have that possibility of learning and expanding your skills. You know, maybe in the future you want to try to edit your images, and unfortunately you don't have that option if your drone only shoots JPEGs. To summarize, the only reason I bought the Mavic Air 2 is because I got it really cheap. If I would buy a new drone, I would either get a Air 2S or maybe even spend a little bit more money on Mavic 3, but probably Air 2S. Mini 2 is good, but no decent like. Unfortunately, I want to color grade my videos. So I hope you enjoyed this review and maybe you got to learn something new. Planning on doing more reviews and experience with different products. So if you want any reviews or recommendations, please leave a comment and I'll make a video about it. Thank you for watching, see you next one, bye!